Every night in the Chicago area, people go to bed hungry. Chicago Food Rescue is a nonprofit that is trying to change that. Dedicated volunteers pick up surplus food from donors and deliver it directly to sites where it's then distributed. Chicago Food Rescue cuts out food waste and helps nourish communities. And joining us now is the founder and executive director of Chicago Food Rescue, Jake Tepperman. Thanks for joining me this morning. I really appreciate you being here. How did Chicago Food Rescue begin, and why here?
Yeah, so I'm from Chicago. I grew up in the Chicagoland area. I lived in Pittsburgh for 8 years. Half of that was spent with an organization called 412 Food Rescue and Food Rescue Hero. I learned the importance of food insecurity and rescuing food and using that food, surplus food, to feed people who were experiencing food insecurity there. And eventually, during the pandemic, was just kind of called back to Chicago to be closer to family, and knew that there was a need here. There's a need for food, excess food and food waste and food insecurity. That happens everywhere. So bringing my expertise and knowledge of how to feed people using surplus food back to Chicago was, I think, my life's work.
Let's talk about surplus food, because a lot of people are familiar with food pantries, right? Where people come and they are given new items, if you will, right? So what exactly is surplus food, and how does Chicago Food Rescue find it and then distribute it? Where does it come from?
So first of all, the work that food pantries, food banks, soup kitchens are doing is all phenomenal. You know, they're doing wonderful work, and yet food insecurity still exists, and food waste still exists. So there's food that is being wasted everywhere, from you know, in your home, food businesses, caterers, basically everywhere that food exists, it is also probably being wasted. So the idea is to take that food and just redistribute it and transport it directly to nonprofits.
But what are we talking about here? Are we talking about like boxed lunches from conventions that people don't eat?
Everything. From trays of prepared food to boxes of produce to individually packaged sandwiches. Really any type of food that is thrown away. The idea is to rescue that and take it directly to, distribute it directly to a nonprofit that serves it. Both traditional sites, food pantries, soup kitchens, things like that, shelters, and non-traditional food access sites, free fridges, community centers, community health centers, everywhere and everything in between.
So talk about this tech-driven model, right, that you use. How does it work?
Yeah, so the Chicago Food Rescue app is powered by Food Rescue Hero, the organization that I was working for in Pittsburgh. And what that does is it allows volunteers to help feed their neighbors and their communities. And the way that works is it shows volunteers where food needs to be picked up and where it needs to be taken directly to, thereby removing all barriers of access for volunteers who just want to get involved and do a good thing.
So can I use it?
Absolutely. You can download it today, get started. Rescues generally take as little as 30 minutes up to maybe an hour. So it allows volunteers to do a lot with a little of their time.
Right.
And it removes, like I said, removes barriers to access by telling volunteers who to contact, where to go, gives them directions, shows them pictures, really makes everything very easy for them to rescue food and help feed their community and feed their neighbors. Have
you seen a tangible impact since you started this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just getting started. I launched Chicago Food Rescue back in September of last year, but absolutely, definitely. You know, I've talked to a lot of the nonprofit partners that I've delivered food to, and they've made reference to how important and how helpful and how appreciated the food that I was dropping off and volunteers are dropping off is for their organizations.
Well, I'm sure people can learn so much more too about the Chicago Food Rescue, right? If they Google it and whatnot. But I think it's amazing work you're doing, sincerely.
Thank you very much.
And I think food rescue is something that people I need to be more and more aware of because of what you said. There's so much waste. So thank you so much, Jake Tepperman. Really appreciate it. To learn more, you can log on to chicagofoodrescue.org and perhaps get involved yourself.